Hello, what's up YouTube? Ronnixphotography and Retouching, and in this tutorial I want to show you 5 common skin retouching mistakes that most of you people use when it comes to using frequency separation or skin retouching when you're using frequency separation. So stick around and you spot out those mistakes, and I know some of you have been making those mistakes when it comes to doing skin retouching, so stick around and look out for those mistakes and you may be able to correct them, and you make your retouching process really better and you upgrade it. So this is the images we have right now, and if at all you find this helpful and these mistakes really helpful and how I'm going to correct them, make sure to hit like button on this video so that YouTube can recommend this and push it to someone having or facing the same mistakes or doing the same mistakes when it comes to frequency separation using a as a skin retouching technique rather. So I'm just going to come and play my action for frequency separation. I'm just going to come right here and I play my 16-bit frequency separation because I have a 16-bit image. So one of the mistakes I tend to know or to see is people that use the wrong frequency separation action when they are going to retouch their images. So first of all, make sure to apply the right frequency separation technique on the right image. So just come and I'm going to play my 16-bit frequency separation action just like that. And it's going to play, and for the radius, this is where I see most people doing it wrong. So you have to make sure that the radius is up to a point when you're just slightly losing out on the skin details in your photo. So if at all you don't get the right texture right now, I'm going to be pointing out a mistake that most of you people tend to use or to do after realizing that you misuse this very step. So you have to move the radius up to a point when you feel like you're losing out on the prominent details in the image, and just stop at that point. So for this case at about 7, that is when I'm just starting close out on the details. I'm just going to hit OK for the action to continue playing. So after it is done playing, you're going to see, I want to show you the mistakes you guys tend to do. So I'm going to come and I close this action window, and I'm also going to come and turn off the black and white layer. So the very first mistake when it comes to frequency separation is when you come right here and you maybe want to apply your mixer brush tool or even the lasso tool. So you come and maybe you get the mixer brush tool, and after setting it right, you come and make sure it is clean and you have selected this second option. The weight is 9, load 75, mix at 90 and the flow 100. And the first mistake you tend to do is you leave this checked on. So this is a mistake because when you check this, it means that when you start painting using a mixer brush tool, remember this reads like sample all layers. So when you select your low frequency layer that contains the colors or the skin tones and you start painting on the image or on the skin, let me show you what is going to happen. So I'm just going to paint on the image, and as you're painting on the photo, you can see it is really not affecting, or it is not blending the skin tones, meaning you sampled all layers. So you sampled all the layers within the frequency separation group, and that means that it's going to also sample the details or the textures, and it is going to paint them in the low frequency layer. So always make sure to select the right layer to work on when it comes to skin retouching. So you can see right now it has applied that rough texture and it has applied it on the low frequency layer. Remember, you may have selected the low frequency layer, but when you leave this turned on, it means that it's also going to be pasting information from the texture layer or the layer that has textures and painting it in the color layer, and you're going to be having this rough and ugly image. You can see this right here. So make sure I'm just going to undo that. Make sure to always turn, or make sure this is not checked and you retouch on the right layer. So that is the low frequency. And when I use the mixer brush tool, I'm just going to paint just like that, and you can see it is effective and it is working right now, and it is not applying the textures, and meaning you're only working with the low frequency layer colors to get the best. So make sure to do that. And another trick I can recommend is just come and turn off the high frequency layer, and in this case you can see the colors quite well, and you continue blending or evening out the colors within the skin tone. So mistake number 1 is done, and I just hope you don't do the same mistakes when it comes to skin retouching your images in the future. I'm just going to turn this on. So the mistake number 2 is when you people tend to come and use the lasso tool to maybe refine, or those that use the lasso tool to do skin retouching, and you come and get your lasso tool, usually you leave the feather at 0 pixels. So make sure you always have this first option selected, that is the new selection mode activated or selected. And under feathering, you have to take so much consideration in this feathering option. So let me first of all show you the mistake and how we can correct it. So you come and maybe you select your area, and maybe you come and leave the feather at around 0 pixels, and you come to filter and you come back to blur and come down to Gaussian blur, and maybe you apply a blur onto that selection. So right now I'm just going to come and hit OK. I'm just going to take it up. So I'm just going to come and hit OK. And when I deselect, let me just zoom in. When I deselect that selection, you can see it creates this annoying line around the photo. You can see how annoying that looks, and it is really vivid. So it is a mistake that I did as a retoucher, or as someone who was learning how to use frequency separation. So you can see that this radius or this edge is really sharp and creates that annoying line over that selection. So I'm just going to hit Ctrl Command Z to undo that. I'm just going to deselect. I'm just going to hit Ctrl Command Z twice. So how to correct that? You can see if at all I make a random selection and I hit Q on the keyboard, you can see even right now Q is going to bring up a mask for your selection. You can see the edges for that selection are really sharp, so meaning the feather is going to make the edge very sharp. So make sure you hit Q again and you look at that selection, and with a feather of around 20 or 22 pixels, and I'm going to hit enter. If at all I am to make a selection right here and I hit Q again, you can see that this is a more finer and softer edge selection on this photo. You just look at how nice this is. So make sure you always move the feather up to around 22 pixels, or between 20 and 25, you're going to be good to go. And when I come and I hit Q again, and I come and I apply the same blur onto the image, just like that. I'm just going to use the same blur, and I simply deselect by clicking off that selection. You can see it doesn't leave those annoying lines on the image. So that is mistake number 2 that you tend to use. So make sure the feather is around 20 to 25 and don't leave it at 0. So the other third mistake I tend to see most of you people doing when it comes to using frequency separation is when it comes to using the lasso tool still, you come to the nose area, and I know since you don't have enough time and you're rushing through to deliver work or to post work online, you just come and you select the whole nose just like this, and you apply a Gaussian blur filter on top of it. So I'm just going to come to filter, and I'm going to apply a Gaussian blur filter onto the nose. So just look at this nose right now. I'm just going to hit OK. Look at the nose, and I'm going to hit Ctrl Command D. So when you look at the before and the after for the nose, you can see it has really been flattened and it looks very big. In this case, you can see how big the nose looks, and that is the mistake you tend to do. So when it comes to the nose area, I'm just going to hit Ctrl Command Z to undo that. So when it comes to the nose area and you want to apply the lasso tool technique, just come to this other side of the nose, the shadow area, and you apply your Gaussian blur onto that side of the nose, and you come to this other side and also apply that. And when it comes to this middle part of the nose and you want to apply your Gaussian blur filter, for example filter blur, and comes to Gaussian blur, and when you apply that Gaussian blur filter, make sure that you reduce on the effect or the filter to keep around that nice and beautiful image. So make sure you apply the Gaussian blur and you keep the radius. So just come and reduce on the or fade the effect of the Gaussian blur. So that is how to correct that mistake. So I'm just going to come to my history. I'm going to deselect and go back a few steps. So just come right here and I'm going to select my group for frequency separation, and I think I had already done the mistake. So I'm just going to come back down, and you can, so when it comes to a nose, just come and select this side of the nose and you apply, for example, your Gaussian blur. You can see it applies the Gaussian blur, and when you feel like it's too much, you can right click on the selection and you can fade or reduce on the effect of that Gaussian blur. And you also come to the other side of the nose and apply the Gaussian blur. And when it comes to the highlight, like I was saying, and you come and apply your Gaussian blur, it may fade or reduce it so much. So just always come and fade or reduce on the opacity for the Gaussian blur, for example, in highlight areas of your image, and that is going to look a little bit way natural. So that is mistake number 3, and we are going to come to mistake number 4. So remember, we're just spotting out 5 retouching mistakes. So mistake number 4 is going to be about eye and teeth whitening. So usually so many tutorials, and I also did the same mistake when I was showing you how to whiten eyes. So most of you tend to make the eyes blue, and the reason is when it comes to Photoshop and you want to do eye whitening, for example, you just come right here to hue and saturation, and for example you take the saturation down, and you also come and apply a photo filter, and you apply a cooling filter 82. So what this is going to do, it is going to add a blue filter within the eyes of the model. For example, I'm just going to select both and hit Ctrl Command G and create a layer mask. Hold down the alternate and click on this layer mask, and I'm going to invert that, and I'm going to get my soft round brush, and I'm going to set white as the foreground, and in order to reset, click on these two small boxes to get black and white. I'm just going to zoom in and paint on the eye. So just going to come and I'm going to paint within the eye. Just look at how blue the eyes are turning out to be or to look. So always make sure that when you're doing this eye whitening, make sure you're not making the eyes blue. So this is the mistake I see. I see so many photos with blue eyes and blue photos. So you always have to make sure that you don't apply that blue photo filter option. So let me show you how to easily do this and get the best out of the image. So just come, you can just apply one layer, that is the hue and saturation, and you can just come and desaturate that all the way down and just simply slightly turn up the lightness, and with that you can just invert this by hitting Ctrl Command I on the keyboard and just come and paint in, and this is going to naturally whiten the eyes. Just look at this and how nice this is looking and natural, as opposed to the blue eyes that we had in the mistake you tend to do. So just look at the before and the after. It is very natural and the eyes are naturally white in this case. So let's just look at mistake number 4, and mistake number 4 is going to be about not dodging and banning your images. Remember, when you're doing frequency separation, we tend to come up with a flat photo or a flat image. So I'm just going to come and I'm going to play my dodge and ban action, and those interested, just make sure you hit or check the links in the description of this video, and you can purchase my Retouching Essentials pack. I'm just going to come and hit the global dodge and ban action, and using a white brush at an opacity of 10%, I'm just going to paint in the highlights and the shadows. Remember, when you're using frequency separation, we tend to really flatten the image and we lose out on the amazing facial structures, and the image is going to look flat. So in order to recover or bring back those details or dimensions for your images, just come and dodge and ban. So we're going to be doing global dodging and banning. So first of all, banning is for the shadows. So if at all you just want to accentuate the shadows, make sure you click on the burn layer mask, and for the highlights click on the dodge. So you're just going to sculpt the skin using a white brush on a black mask. Just paint, and this is going to just paint on the shadow and follow the direction just like that. And using this, you're going to be adding shape or dimension. Just paint right there, and you come to the shadow areas and also paint in those shadow areas. And you can come to the highlight right now and just brighten or paint onto the highlight. I just want you to look at what you're going to be having after doing this. So just come and paint on those highlights, and you can come to the shadows, and when you make a mistake, just switch your brush to black and you can eliminate that from the area that you are painting through. So I'm just going to hit Ctrl Z, and I'm going to hit burn and burn this area to bring back the amazing shape or dimension. So just look at the before and the after. You can see you have just added shape or dimension to the image. So the mistake of not dodging and burning your images is going to make your images look flat and boring. So always make sure to add a dodge and burn adjustment or step to fine-tune or add a three-dimensional fill to your images in Photoshop. So those are basically my 5 retouching skin retouching mistakes that most of you people tend to do when it comes to using frequency separation and skin retouching in general. And if at all you have found this helpful, don't forget to like this video and don't forget to subscribe this channel. If at all you have been watching and you're not subscribed this channel, Ronnix from ronnixphotography. Thank you for watching and see you in yet amazing tutorials. And don't forget to keep practicing and also keep creating.